A magazine edited by the Reverend Jerry Falwell says that the character of Tinky Winky on the kids' show Teletubbies is an effort to promote homosexuality.
These are the popular Teletubbies. They're all over the screen and kids love them. Lala, Dipsy, and Tinky Winky Teletubbies. But the right Reverend says that, well, Tinky Winky here is, how can I say it, a bit kinky. Teletubbies. Tinky here is purple, which, as everybody, including the Reverend, knows, is the universal symbol for gayness. Teletubbies. And then there's this triangle on the top of his head. I think it's for holding little Tinky Winky, but the Reverend says that's a symbol for gay pride.
Happy Ramadan. Now, I know that not everyone watching this video celebrates Ramadan. I don't either. But I am also not Jewish, and I am also not a Christian. I am a former Christian. Even though I celebrate none of these things, still go out of my way to be polite and kind and respectful by saying Merry Christmas, by saying Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Ramadan. What I am doing here is inclusive. I am including the Muslim diaspora into my video. And though I don't necessarily have to do this, there is no law making me do this, as there is no law making me say Merry Christmas, I am choosing with my own autonomy to say Happy Ramadan. Now we're going to put a pin on this broader point that I just explored. Jordan B. Peterson is a fucking train wreck on the internet, and it's kind of sad just how much his career has plummeted over the years. He started off by making a big public stink about Canada passing an anti-hate crime law, which, by the way, is less than the bare fucking minimum. He still got mad at that, and all of a sudden the alt-right saw this guy and how much of a loose cannon he was, and decided to capitalize on his stupidity. After all, bad press is good press. And this guy is really fucking good bad press. Doesn't matter how stupid the person is that is peddling your white supremacist lies, as long as any old dumbass is peddling that fucking rhetoric, hey, anything fucking goes. But Jordan B. Peterson hasn't really been looking good these days. He's been really heavy on his Twitter use in the last couple of years. And in particular, I want to talk about Jordan B. Peterson's worst enemy, Elmo. I actually have Elmo on Skype call right now. Hey Elmo, can you comment on Jordan B. Peterson for me, please?
Elmo wishes to speak diplomatically here. Elmo thinks Jordan B. Peterson's a really nice guy, but Elmo thinks that Jordan B. Peterson needs to touch grass. Anytime Elmo posts anything online, it's like Jordan B. Peterson comes out with some great replacement theory bullshit, and I just really wish that he could stop, because it's kind of scaring Elmo. Elmo's just worried that he's gonna do something to hurt himself or hurt those around him. So Elmo hopes that Jordan B. Peterson gets the help that he needs before it's too late. Thank you for having me, Skylar.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fucking blame you, Elmo. Jesus Christ. I'd say that too if I had a bunch of tweets said to me by Jordan B. Peterson in the most lunatic way possible. So today we're going to be looking at some of Jordan B. Peterson's crazy fucking tweets, and we're going to dissect them to see if he is of the right mind. So some of you who've been paying attention to the words I actually say do know that I don't like Joseph Biden, and I don't like the Democratic Party. And here's Joseph Biden explicitly just saying,
I know how hard it is some days to sweep the clouds away and get to sunnier days. Our friend Elmo is right. We have to be there for each other, offer our help to a neighbor in need, and above all else, ask for help when we need it. Even though it's hard, you're never alone.
We will cover this part later in the video. But then Jordan B. Peterson is like, oh, I can rightly believe that those who are writing tweets for poor old Joe Biden are admirers of that bloody, horrible, whiny puppet. Elmo will definitely vote for the Democrats. Now look, I don't watch Sesame Street, so I didn't really catch the episode where Elmo was campaigning for Joe Biden on Sesame Street. I can depict in my head Oscar the Grouch shutting him up and telling Elmo to organize locally and to stop being counter-revolutionary. So if anybody knows that one episode where Elmo starts platforming for the Democratic Party, be sure to let me know the exact episode and timestamp in the comments below. This next one is absolutely fascinating, with Elmo wishing Muslims a happy Ramadan, and it's very wholesome, even with Elmo saying that Elmo loves you. But Jordan B. Peterson's like, Hamas will never win over the righteous keepers of the West, of your scum. We need to think about the implications of what is being said here, although not out loud. Elmo, which is really funny that I'm defending Elmo of all people right now, is merely acknowledging the existence of Ramadan. Like, that's it. He's not making any declarative statements in favor or against Hamas. He's not even bringing up Hamas. Without getting too deep into what Ramadan is, for those who don't know what it is, Ramadan is when Muslims participate in fasting as a means to remember their Prophet Muhammad's first revelation. During fasting hours throughout the day, Muslims aren't supposed to really be eating food or indulging in alcohol or tobacco. They're not supposed to engage in sexual activity. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is, in terms of practice, Ramadan is not all that different than Lent, which is practiced by the Catholic Christian religion. So now that we got that part out of the way, let's really look at what Jordan B. Peterson is saying when he says Hamas will never win over the righteous keepers of the West. Since Elmo never once mentioned the existence of Hamas in his tweet, indicating that he has not made any statements about that, we can safely conclude with logic and reasoning that Jordan B. Peterson is conflating Hamas with all of the Muslim population. So let's play this game. We can use the same logic and reasoning to say that all Christians are child pedophiles. The Catholic Church very clearly has a long history of child sex allegations and scandals in its name. And we can go a step further and say Brendan Smith, the man who raped children for 50 years in his priestly career, is basically a representation of all Christians. Clearly this is not true. Not all Christians are child fanatics, as what is often more the case is that Christians are victims of their own religion. We can safely conclude that if I unironically said that because of Brendan Smith, all Christians are child fanatics, that there would objectively be an untrue assertion. And yes, it does mean that not all Muslims are Hamas. Jordan B. Peterson is not only a dumbass, but he is also a racist dumbass. And this is in response to Elmo. You should be ashamed of yourself, you dumbass. The next post is of Elmo wishing this character by the name of Slimy a happy birthday, and that Elmo wishes Slimy a really great day. Hashtag happy birthday Slimy. For those who don't know, this is what Slimy looks like. Slimy is Grover's pet worm. I actually didn't even know about this character, but that's because I haven't watched Sesame Street in like almost 3 decades. But yeah, if you were like an avid fan of the show, this is the kind of post that you would want to see from Elmo, is somebody commemorating an affectionately memorable character's birthday. But Jordan B. Peterson's like, go away and leave us alone, you virtue-signaling, narcissist, fear-mongering despiser of the peasantry at Elmo. Oh. Now, I don't know what he is even talking about. This tweet is of Elmo, a fictional fucking character, wishing happy birthday to Slimy, another fictional fucking character. What is Elmo virtue signaling by wishing a fictional character happy birthday?
Whoa, the cultural Marxists and the postmodernists are brainwashing your children. Whoa.
Clean your room, pleb. But this one's not Elmo, but from the Babylon Bee, which is really interesting because it shows that the Babylon Bee is absolutely obsessed with Elmo as much as Jordan B. Peterson. Elmo dies of myocarditis after receiving COVID vaccine. Clearly meant to be a joke, but like, I don't even know who this joke is supposed to cater to. Like, is it satirizing anti-vaxxers, or is it satirizing those who are critical of anti-vaxxers? Because in either scenario, this is really really bad, and it more importantly demonstrates that conservatives don't understand subtext to satire, regardless as to what this is trying to satirize. But Jordan B. Peterson's like, and not a moment too soon. I've always detested that whiny, infantilized puppet. But bro, why? Really? Why? It's clearly evident that your career is in the toilet at this point. This is why nobody but like mass shooters take you seriously, Jordan B. Peterson. Because only the worst kinds of people who would take other people's lives are gonna take you seriously. Like the type of people who would see this and actually take this seriously are the same kinds of people who would find anything that is not a fucking saltine cracker to be woke. This is the last one we're going to go over today. This one honestly is the most puzzling to me because Elmo is doing this thing that I think a lot of people should be doing, and that is checking in on our friends. Especially in these hard times, it's really important to check on your friends, and it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, it's good to make sure that your friends are doing okay emotionally, because they may be in a crisis, and if so, you should be there to support them. This is very unmistakably a very positive post. Now, Jordan B. Peterson's like, go fuck yourself for wanting to discriminate against white people! Oh, so that's what this is all about? Elmo is discriminating against white people by checking on people's emotional well-being? Wow. Just wow. This is evident that Jordan B. Peterson has completely lost his fucking marbles. Although I would argue he doesn't have marbles, he has chaos dragons and he's trying to wrestle with them. Hey, JBP, do you need somebody to check in on you, like a wellness check? Because this is not evident that Elmo is discriminating against white people. Not to mention, there are a couple things to unpack here. First of all, white people are not discriminated in our society. Let me explain. In our white supremacist society, white people are not discriminated for being white in the system that we live under. There are no policies before, currently, and probably not after that specifically target white people. There are policies that are targeting trans people, and there are white trans people. And considering, the existence of Jordan B. Peterson's online activity, we know how he feels about trans people. Canada installs an anti-hate speech law, and then Jordan B. Peterson makes a big old stink about it, and boom, the alt-right queefs all over his panties until he's not useful anymore. Which is probably why he's making tweets like this, because he basically doesn't have a life at this point. But not all trans people are white, and the anti-transgender laws do not explicitly target white trans people. They unfortunately target all trans people regardless of race. I mention this because sometimes white people will anecdotally mention the systemic injustices that they have themselves experienced, which is valid, but at the same time, it's not because they're white, it's because they are working class. And these discriminatory policies that sometimes affect white people drastically affect other people of color all the time. Look throughout American history and see how black people are treated in the medical industry. You may be surprised. And I just want to say one last thing. What exactly are you, Jordan B. Peterson, saying in this post? Are you saying that white people are lacking emotional well-being? Because let's remember, whiteness, historically speaking, is about erasure of culture. Sure, there's European culture, but Europeans don't normally call themselves white. That is something we started to adapt recently within the last 500 years due to colonialism. Whiteness was created as a social construct, a made-up fucking fiction, as a means to justify otherizing and marginalizing those who are deemed non-white. And what this essentially means is that since Jordan B. Peterson is accusing Elmo, god damn it, I can't keep a straight face every time I do this. Jordan B. Peterson is accusing Elmo's post about emotional well-being as evidence that he is discriminating against white people. So does that mean in order to be white, you need to lack emotional well-being? Because according to the Anti-Defamation League, nearly 3 out of 4 killings committed by right-wing extremists in the United States are committed by white supremacists at a 73%. And that, of course, as the statistic shows, is not all of right-wing extremism.
To be fair, the same study shows that anarchist and left-wing extremism does exist, but at a measly 4%. Meanwhile, all right-wing extremism, including white supremacists, make up at about 75% statistically of all extremism in the previous decade. And since Jordan Peterson has such an aversion to Muslims, as we have established earlier, Islamist extremists don't even make up a quarter of that amount. Which means that if we're looking at the numbers, white supremacists are statistically inciting far more violence than any other people group in our society. This is why I said earlier that it seems to me that Jordan B. Peterson is saying that you cannot be emotionally well in order to be a white person. You have to lack emotional well-being in order to identify as white. It sounds ridiculous because it is. Now, I am more than certain that bringing up the ADL statistic is going to trigger Jordan B. Peterson to say fake news. After all, it does a good job of making white supremacists look bad, even though it does a pretty decent job of surveying all political lineages. They used to have a word for that back in 1930s Germany. Lügenpresse. Yeah, I triple dog dare you to call the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, fake news. Which is ironic because both Jordan B. Peterson and the ADL support Israel. JBP is just a little less diplomatic about it, but the phrase fake news has historically white supremacist ties and white supremacist political usages. This is not some Bajikianist nuanced take on the media. This is a white supremacist being criticized by the media and statistics and saying, nope, I don't acknowledge it. Because, of course, a white supremacist would get mad at Elmo for literally no reason. Racist dumbass.